Hello, everybody. Let me get my headphones on here. Let me turn it up a little bit. Okay. Hello, everybody. Welcome to the stream. We're doing good. We just had a little bit of a false start there, but we're up and running now. Hold on one second. Gotta get my mask on. And there it is. Hello, everybody. We're back on the stream. Alright, so the show is about to start very soon. Just wanted to say hello to everybody. And press play. Press play on all the VCRs here. Okay. Alright, so I just wanted to thank everybody for tuning in. These video jams are very random. I never know what they're going to turn out to be. I just pick random VHS and we see what happens, really. So I'm just gonna lighten that camera a little bit. Hold on. There we go. That's nice and bright. Okay, so we have some interesting content we're going to jam tonight. And I want you to pay attention because we are going to Germany. Here we go.
Trains, you're going to love this trip. If you like Mexico, you're going to love this trip.
This is a unique journey, the Copper Canyon. You have to see it. It's another world.
In the east. And the mighty Rhine River flows along Germany's western edge. Germany's borders have meandered about the maps of Northern Europe over the centuries, swelling and shrinking the fortunes and attitudes of a culture that was at once aggressive and artistic, but
seeking a safe new home. Finally, in The Wind in the Willows, cruise with Mr. Toad.
the cradle of German history.
We've chosen the Sierra Express for our trip to Mexico. Na na na, na 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 na, na 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 na.
A lion went hunting with a fox, a jackal, and a wolf. They finally found an elk and killed the animal. As the elk lay dead in the midst of the floor, they each thought how it was to be divided.
There are over 40 species of dolphins, which have adapted to every sea on Earth and many of her great rivers. The slim spinner dolphins revel in the warm waters of Hawaii. The stout duskies swim the frigid waters of Argentina and New Zealand. The pink and long-beaked Amazon River dolphin has lived in fresh water for 15 million years.
Overlooking their lands to protect themselves and their subjects.
Your people, I shall
Bring traders and collect.
not my strongest in the world. This angered Frith, so he determined to get the better of El Herrera.
It takes the train almost 2 minutes to escape its 6,000 feet of darkness.
Yes. When the fox
Open water every day. And if they understand the trainer's signals and perform impeccably, they get to kiss a mutt named Sloppy Joe.
In the northwest quadrant, see if we
And
can
in
pick them
certain
up.
temples,
I don't
priests
spot
bathe
anything yet.
in
Did you see something? Yeah, I saw you
Old world mythologies designate the lion as the symbol of the sun, the zodiac sign of Leo. Just as the sun is the center and king of the solar system, where its planetary royal subjects revolve around it, the jungle where all the animals revolve around it.
This tracking equipment was a technological feat, one made possible when civilian scientists joined.
So, and El Herrera's tail grew shining white and flashed like a star. And his back legs grew long and powerful. And he tore across the hill
Shouldn't be able to
faster
leap
than
as
any
high and
creature in
swim
the
as
world.
fast as they do. Terry Williams studies dolphin physiology.
We measured Freeman's oxygen consumption while he pushes against a load cell. He uses very little oxygen to generate tremendous power.
Primo breathes the same air you and I do. He's just better at it. When he surfaces to breathe, the expended air rushes
It may look like a pop-up picture book, but is it likely to collapse like one? Not a chance, says the head of the building department in Alsfeld.
Does not compromise safety at all.
The story of radar actually began long before World War II, when A. Hoyt Taylor and Leo Young, two civilian scientists employed by the Navy, set out to conduct routine communication experiments on an arm of the Potomac River. One September day in 1922, the scientists set up a shortwave radio receiver to pick up signals from a transmitter on the other side of the river.
intelligence and strength make dolphins so
They
well
tuned
adapted
into the steady hum.
environment that their basic anatomy hasn't changed much in over 5 million years. All that time, the dolphin's main predator has been the shark. But now dolphins face a new and even deadlier
so they couldn't
threat.
just spread out as we
Us.
would today.
A man named Sam Labuddy risked his life to shoot a very disturbing video aboard a tuna boat. At that time, millions of dolphins were dying in tuna nets.
Well, to build the line was the infamous revolutionary leader Pancho Villa. But during the Mexican Revolution, Villa probably blew up more sections of the railroad than he ever built.
Every day, fishing nets around the world. Today, an even greater threat from
Radio wave, and then the receiver would pick up the echo of that wave bouncing off a target.
but people can help.
Such a system would be able to detect distant airplanes as well as ships. This was radar, an acronym for radio detection and ranging. By the late 1930s, the U.S. military had its first primitive radar sets. Training films soon followed to explain to recruits the principles behind this new technology. Radar was born with the discovery that radio waves, like sound waves, echo. But here, let's ask an expert on these things.
Hello?
The analogy to sound is good. But radio waves, like visible light, really are a form of electromagnetic radiation, so they travel at the speed of light. If a radio wave could travel around the world, it would make the trip 7.5 times in just 1 second. This allows for quick detection of targets.
When the radar antenna sends out its pulses, they bounce back from the unknown target, and the result is seen as a peak. This pattern, the distance and speed of an approaching plane are charted.
These basic principles were also discovered independently by scientists in other countries, most notably Great Britain and Germany.
And Austrians share a common heritage.
The Hotel Mission is owned by Roberto Balderrama. Senor Balderrama was instrumental early on in establishing interest in the Copacabana area. The tranquil pace of Saratawi gives us a chance to wind down and adapt to the rhythms of Mexico.
These costumes also find their way into a specialty of this area, the painted house fronts. Germans everywhere like to spruce up their...
Dates back to...
than here in the Alps. Sometimes it's hard to tell where three-dimensional reality ends and painted-on make-believe starts. And the subjects are as endlessly imaginative as German fairy tales.
Now stop it, driver. We've got to go away from here. All of us. Go away?
Some horses from a local rancher may be one of the best ways to relive the experience of bygone days.
Muy hombre.
A nearby resort runs boats through the dolphins' feeding grounds, injuring several dolphins badly, including Jojo. One dolphin was killed by sharp propeller blades. Some of Jojo's wounds were nearly fatal, but Dean led him into shallow water and nursed him back to health with antibiotics. This painful medicine possible without the strong bond of trust between these two.
Back on the train, we head over a 695-foot-long bridge. Beyond it, the rail builders had to blast a series of tunnels through these sheer rock walls. There was no way to go around here. The builders simply had to dynamite their way through.
It was...
But will we ever learn how dolphins communicate? To find out, a young scientist has followed her dream to a place where dolphins swim free. Just a hop, skip, and a jump off the southeast coast of Florida is that mellow string of islands called the Bahamas.
Top priority for the new civilian agency, more sophisticated than the existing U.S. military sets. This required one important change. Existing radar transmitted at low frequencies or long wavelengths. From one peak of a radio wave to another measured 1 to 10 meters or more.
We pass World War II troop cars that not only serve as storage containers,
only 10
but
centimeters
also house
from
rail
crest to
workers.
crest. Easier to generate a narrow beam, more accurate in pinpointing the direction and height of a target. The shorter wavelengths could distinguish between targets closer together. And while long wavelength radar requires large antenna components, microwave sets could be made from smaller ones that could easily fit into planes.
And you have the 2 underwater microphones right here, which are hydrophones.
My research is aimed at one underlying goal. I hope to use any knowledge I gather to help protect these animals. In the United States, it's illegal to swim with wild dolphins. Here in the Bahamas, I never forget that I'm entering their habitat, their home. Whenever I approach a group of wild dolphins, it still makes my heart race. They're unpredictable and majestic, graceful, yet powerful animals.
The Romanesque churches from around the year 1000 are the first specifically
To study
German
their
style.
communication,
They were built
Kathleen
by imperial
videotapes
dynasties,
the dolphins and
like
records
those
the
of
sounds
Charlemagne
they
and
make.
Otto the Great.
Dolphins use...
They are truly castles of God,
It's made from
symbolic
pine needles.
that derived most of its power and unity from Rome.
There's another comfortable hotel in Copper Canyon country.
The limit...
The Posada Barrancas El Mirador.
Buenas tardes.
Welcome to the hotel.
Thank you. Thank you.
When the persons come here, they say, "Oh," because we are right on the rim of the canyon, and you can see the canyon everywhere. You just stay in the hotel, from the rooms, from the living, from the dining room. Every room has a balcony to the canyon.
Why is that? Kathleen is trying to find the answer.
This hotel was built with
Dolphins, like my pal Freckles, seldom move their mouths. They're basically ventriloquists.
To figure out which one is vocalizing, Kathleen spaced her new microphones about 3 feet apart to exaggerate the stereo sound.
The tile, the walls is adobe. Everything is natural. We use everything from Mexico, from the area.
In the morning, we wake up to glorious sunshine and the roomy dining room of El Mirador.
Track this group because 125 dolphins by age.
Hazel, we'll have to stop here. Fiver and that other half-size one are all in. They need to rest.
He's right, Hazel.
Look, once we're beyond the woods, we'll really be clear of the Ausla, and we can rest then.
As we pass through the pillars, because it's windy today, the helicopter may move a little bit, so nothing to be concerned.
These barrancas, or canyons that comprise the Copper Canyon region, are several hundred feet deeper than the Colorado River's Grand Canyon. But if we want to get an even closer look...
Most dolphins are highly vocal when they...
I'll be watching you.
Perhaps dolphins who can see one another clearly communicate more through movement and touch. It's something to think about on the way back to port.
I'll be watching you.
Alendri. This way. Making good conversation, enjoying life.
The Mexican culture in Creole, we have the Tarahumaras who live
buildings possible. But ask...
For instance, these little fields are all Tarahumara right out here. Then we have a small Anglo community.
Renaissance
and then we have some
became
of the Mennonite influence.
Buildings in Germany, too, took on a more horizontal look. But in general, the Renaissance never became a truly German art form. The absolute monarchy and the Age of Reason gave birth to the Baroque. The style of Louis XIV symbolized absolute power, which is why the German princes imitated it. This style can best be seen in castles like Würzburg, or Schwetzingen, or Nymphenburg, where the grandiose layouts display the unassailable power of the state. Even unruly nature in the gardens was subordinated to its will and to reason.
Same sounds in a pattern that closely resembles the structure of human language. I get really excited when I discover a pattern. If we can find the dolphins.
Store, which sells Tarahumara baskets, pottery, woven goods, jewelry, and carvings.
With its emphasis on austerity and hard work, wasn't sitting well with...
Thanks, George. Have a safe flight to Freeport.
A grit. Push it out.
Miles in a day.
And counter curves.
Came in 81 and not only stayed 1 year, stayed 15 years now.
Alejandrina's
Still.
This hospital, which provides free care for the Tarahumara and for anyone else who needs its services, was the vision and achievement of Jesuit missionary Father Luis Verplanck.
Put an abrupt end to that light-hearted art. In the beginning of the 19th century, Germany rediscovered classic antiquity. In Munich, King Ludwig I built a grand plaza in the Greek style. It was this facelift that gave Munich the nickname Athens on the Isar. Ludwig II fled into an army that revived a heroic Germanic past with medieval legends and myths. Ludwig led a sheltered childhood in the lonely mountain castle Hohenschwangau.
I've never seen anything like that before.
The man-thing killed it.
A man thing?
The young monarch immediately alienated his ministers by summoning to his court a man who had just been banned from Dresden for revolutionary activities, Richard Wagner. With Wagner,
picked up an echo from the dome of the Christian Science Mother Church, visible across the river. A coded telegram was rushed off to let officials in on the secret.
Couple of dogs to over 60, including all the cousins. The male members adore the puppies and have other raise them, bringing
through skin sensitivity tests.
The British were anxious for this air-based radar as a supplement to their ground-based chain home system, because Germany had turned to night bombing.
The period between September and November 1940 has been referred to as the Great Fire of London. On one night, 1,500 fires were started by German bombs.
Violet's gone.
We better keep moving.
We'll have to stop soon, Hazel. They're frightened and tired.
There. We'll rest there. Can't rest there. That's a man place. There are no men there now.
They come out tail first, and they breathe air just like we do. Watch it happen. It's the baby, and it goes right to the surface to breathe, to take its first breath of air. Yep, there's a lot of touch that goes right there.
If dolphins are to survive, these kids have to care about them. They have to...
A spinner dolphin because it jumps.
Our train adventure nears its... on this trip awaits us just beyond the bridge over the Rio Fuerte.
Fat was rare, so they used ground hazelnuts to keep the dough from sticking to the baking sheet.
Just an academic experiment. In his office in Washington, the Secretary of War himself was ready to challenge the traditional distrust of civilian scientists. Henry Stimson wanted his own personal advisor on radar. In April of 1942, he summoned an electrical engineering professor from the radiation laboratory, Edward L. Bowles.
I was a novice. I wasn't at home in the military structure.
What's happening back home, I wonder? Think, when we lived in our own burrows, eh? Dry, soft, warm bodies.
Now look, we can't go on like this.
But when it comes to sweets, nothing can compare with marzipan, a traditional confection so delicious and popular that it is shipped to all parts of the world from here in Lubeck. In its basic form, marzipan has an extremely simple recipe: almond paste and sugar. But the things made from it,
less dense than
milk,
water.
That was a low salmon leap.
Low leap, yep.
The Sierra Madre Express heads
Leaves you know where you're going.
California, which Teddy Roosevelt called West of the West, and toward our next exciting rail journey on the coast of Starlight.
A much larger school of fish is called a bacon, and that's just what dolphins are feeding on somewhere out here.
A ride on the luxurious coast Starlight takes us through some of America's most unusual scenery. It's a glorious two-day ride from the mission-studded coast above Los Angeles, through the Napa wine country, up past Oregon's snow-covered mountain
they can see for
all
5
the way
miles
to the romantic
and
port
spot
city of
signals from
Seattle.
other dolphins.
On the coast of Starlight.
We think that dolphins live high so they can see a flock of
Only
birds
by
feeding.
biting into this Bavarian sausage called Weisswurst can one tell whether it's
Several
made from
groups of
marzipan,
duskies race toward
which
the
it
feeding
is,
birds.
or whether
Their
it's the
loud vocal
genuine
calls could be to attract other dolphins to the hunt.
They are everywhere, fat and skinny, long and short, hot and cold, indoors and outdoors, as a snack or a main meal.
The first dolphins on the
much the
scene
same
move under
path
the bait
the
bowl,
early Franciscan
driving into the
missionaries
surface
traveled.
and cutting off the escape route.
Our journey on the
Dolphins circle the bait bowl like
1,300
cowboys
miles,
circle cattle.
from Los Angeles to Seattle. And it
Sausages traditionally are washed down with beer. It seems that every...
Today we're shooting the first underwater video of this activity with stereo sound. Maybe this will answer our main questions. We know that when many dolphins feed on a bait ball, they take turns. But why? And how does the group signal a single dolphin when it's her turn to eat?
If all the dusk is fed at once, the ball will break up.
Roll through the Simi Valley and head for the coastal town of Ventura. From there, we'll hug the shoreline up to our first stop at San Luis Obispo. Although it's Christmas time, the fields here in Southern California have turned to bright emerald. Spring is sprung.
The instant before the dolphins charged through the bait ball, that's when their echolocation clicks were most intense. Could that be the vocal cue we're looking for? To answer that question, we'll spend months analyzing today's video, frame by frame.
Okay, everybody. We're about halfway there. Thanks for watching. We're exploring some very interesting video, creating some art, some magical art. So, thanks again for joining the program. This is for you to scrape off the mental mucus from your brain that you will receive from everyday life. That's how I want you to think of this.
Pretty efficient at mating.
It's your subconscious trying to speak
Swims upside down beneath
through the video. Yeah. Wow. Look at those dolphins.
Today, the Duskies seem far more vocal than the Spotteds are when socializing. This is strong evidence that water clarity affects dolphin sounds. I hate to leave Argentina, especially after dancing at the Dusky Ball. But the concept of dance as communication is
Number 14, the Coast Starlight.
About halfway between Los Angeles and San Francisco, it's a great place to begin exploring this region's quaint Central California towns.
Santa Barbara. The Coast Starlight will be boarding shortly for Salinas.
The mission for San Luis Obispo de Cruz, 55th mission.
would allow me to become less of an observer and more of a participant in their dance. Sometimes the dolphins positioned themselves right in front of me.
In a refreshing way, most of Munich dances to a unique melody that's just a little bit out of tune with the rest of the world.
They were interacting with me in a new way, a much closer look. I've observed that a lot of the communication between these dolphins is nonverbal. It's probably much closer to dance and music than it is to language. The scooter gave me a first-hand glimpse of that. For the first time, I felt I was part of their dance, which is at the very heart of all dolphin communication.
Munich calls itself the metropolis.
Something a little more comfortable. Mr. Hearst loved Christmas. He would invite up.
With the sense
incredible for what
and with joy.
I had them all over, and you could just see that you were like a part of the whole group. It was just unbelievable.
At first, I focused solely on vocal skills. After all, I'm here.
For all its happy disposition, Munich is a sophisticated metropolis with a glorious past. A city that prides itself on being a cultural center, with architecture laid out.
You pay for it. The food, the warren, but no one must ever ask where anyone was or speak of the wires. The whole place is snared everywhere, every day.
They left Bigwig to die.
Silver's right.
Let's drive them out, take their warren and live there ourselves.
Yes! Back to the warren!
Yes,
Swam out to Sunfish Reef to see Jojo. When Dean first caught up to him, Jojo kept his distance.
Of all the museums in Munich,
The Dolphin was
one
giving
is very
Dean the
special.
cold shoulder.
The Deutsche Museum, the largest hands-on technology museum in the world. Just walking through its 30 exhibits is a 10-mile hike. It brings the natural sciences and technology right to the visitor's fingertips. From ancient beginnings.
Sure enough, before long, they were up to their old tricks.
Curiosity of inquiry in this place, and then grew up to be the leaders in German technology.
Bubble rings are my way of saying, glad to see you, Jojo. You can never be sure what a wild animal will do, but I should have known all along that Jojo wouldn't abandon me. A few years ago, I was approached by a hammerhead shark. As soon as Jojo saw I was in danger, he rushed in to get between me and the shark. Then he rammed the hammerhead with his rostrum and drove the shark right down to the ocean floor.
Until
Jojo would not
1989,
have protected
Berlin
Dean from the
was like two
hammerhead
sisters,
if he
raised
hadn't
in
felt
different
strong
foster
emotion. There's no denying that the
was
bond
apportioned
between
to
them
the
is very
Russians.
real.
West Berlin.
After all,
By the Americans, British, and French at the end of World War II, was nurtured by the combined wealth of the Allies. The three sectors eventually became a bustling modern city, an island of free enterprise surrounded by communist territory. At its center is Kudamm, short for Kurfürstendamm, the broad boulevard that was the hub of entertainment in the Roaring '20s. It is lined with upscale stores, hotels, and restaurants. The avenue is a showcase of Western comfort and glamour.
Alejandro and I, and many others like us, have dedicated our lives to dolphins. I love these animals and believe with all my heart that they can only survive in the light of human knowledge.
They are supremely intelligent, highly social, endlessly flirtatious, and not above a fight. In short, Dolphins are the creatures we might have been had we lived in the sea. We want to ask them, hey, what's it like? We want to say, let's illuminate the darkness together and create a sea of light in which all creatures swim.
1890s by Wilhelm II, Germany's last emperor. He led the country into World War I, but was forced to abdicate at the war's end. In contrast to the vibrant pace of life in West Berlin, next door, her estranged sister lived in the shadows. East Berlin was controlled by the Russians as World War II established a starkly different social order. More than 40 years of communism proved a hard taskmaster. Better living conditions in the Western Zone led to a constant exodus from East Berlin. It was embarrassing.
Of warfare. By 1943, the war in the air was being fought not over Britain, but over Germany, where the Allies were on the offensive to crush the Nazi war machine. German ball bearing plants, airplane factories.
Checkpoint Charlie, a heavily guarded passageway between the East and West, was notorious in the lore of spine-chilling spy stories. But just as the wall kept East Berliners imprisoned, it kept prosperity out. In November,
characterized furniture and furnishings. Even early Hollywood movies.
As suddenly as it had gone up, the wall finally began to crumble.
After we leave San Miguel, we drop down out of the Santa Lucia Range into the lush Salinas Valley. This is the country made famous by John Steinbeck, the Nobel Prize-winning author of such books as East of Eden.
The museum exhibits all kinds of ingenious contraptions used in heroic attempts to escape to the West. Homemade airplanes, car seats hollowed out to hide a baby. Some succeeded, but many failed.
Release point.
Pipe dream the year before came true.
Was off to the right or left. The tones gave the system its code name, Oboe.
The landmark Brandenburg Gate, a much...
The dawn of a new day finds us taking a different and delightful side trip.
Will of the Black Rabbit, when he calls you, you have to go.
Stay where you are.
As Germany reunified, the gate became a symbol of the country's restoration. Its design proclaims the ideals of human freedom and dignity, prevalent during the years when Berlin was the center of enlightenment in Europe. Stretching out from the gate is the city's main artery, Unter den Linden. It's a stately thoroughfare named for the double row of linden trees planted in 1647. This is Berlin's Avenue of History, lined with impressive civic buildings. Some of the most dramatic moments in German history played out here. Across the centuries, the matchless precision of the Prussian goose step echoed down the boulevard. In the mid-1700s came the armies of Frederick the Great. He typified the Prussian spirit that sought a rare balance.
Wine buyer for the Trojan.
There's a wine with a price for everybody on board.
His territory grew, and he turned Prussia into the most progressive state in Europe.
Roots, grass, all pushed into the earth.
Men have always hated us.
No.
And then East German soldiers.
Because we were in their way.
They'll never rest until they've spoiled the earth.
I tried to find you.
Would perform the changing of the guard in front of the Neue Wache. The old uniforms are relics now, sold on the street as souvenirs. On Unter den Linden stands the...
Capable of doing.
rows and rows of lights inside. In the spirit of play, the palace also houses another popular pastime. Alley, in its pins, echoes up from the bowling alley in the basement below. With reunification comes a renewed pride in Berlin's historical perseverance overcoming the destruction of war. Not far from the palace,
This new
imposing but artistic Berliner Dome has
A
again
lion
become
went
a
hunting
favorite
with a
landmark.
fox, a jackal,
Built
radar
around the
ended the
turn of the
war at
century,
They
wavelengths of 1 to
finally
10
found an
meters.
elk and killed the animal.
Early airborne and
As
ground-based
the elk lay
radar
dead in the
operated
midst
at a
of the
more
fall,
precise 10
they each
centimeters.
thought how it was to
But
be
from the
divided.
start,
It seems miraculous that Berlin's oldest medieval church, the Nikolai Church, survived the perils of history.
Revel in the warm waters of Hawaii. The stout Duskies swim the frigid waters of Argentina and New Zealand. The pink and long-beaked Amazon River dolphin has lived in fresh water for 15 million years. The bottlenose seems to be one of the most intelligent dolphins, and therefore one of the easiest to train. Of course, no other animal their size has such a large and well-developed brain. And no, not even your favorite dog.
The lion has always been associated with power and courage. The ancient Assyrians depicted their own kings as winged lions with human bearded heads. Lion cults flourished in ancient Egypt, and in certain temples, priests bathed tamed lions in waters laced with perfume.
We can't measure an animal's IQ, but tests show that dolphins are the smartest animals on Earth, or close to it. Here, correct symbols and reject all the rest. 27 correct answers in a row. One of the cleverest dolphins, the orca, is also the largest. When they flip their 5-ton bodies high in the air with the greatest of ease.
Oregon has always lured travelers. In the 1840s, before railroads reached here, many set out from Independence, Missouri, where the Oregon Trail began. They struggled for 2,000 miles to reach this land of wild forests, rocky coasts, beautiful rivers, and fertile valleys. Viewed from the snug interior of the coast Starlight, the snow-covered mountains and passes seem serene and enchanting.
Lee Kandinsky, Max Beckman, and others reflected the times.
Piss off! What? Storm, we ride comfortably insulated from the weather, able to enjoy the beauty of the snow in a way earlier travelers could not have imagined. The train is the perfect place to relax, to read, and to reflect.
Reduced to a kind of bare-boned bitterness, a cohesive government was yet to emerge. This was the time of the Weimar Republic, a fractious...
In the dolphin's tail, to see if it's spring-loaded like a kangaroo's legs. An anatomical spring could give the dolphins the speed and endurance to outswim all the other ocean creatures and make it look easy.
Boy, yes he is. Mwah! What a good boy.
Their unrivaled intelligence and strength make dolphins so well adapted to their environment.
Moved into the Reichstag, forging on to become a total dictator.
Because the rain gets warm. To many pioneers heading west, the fertile soil and moderate climate of the Willamette River Valley made it an ideal place to settle.
Adolf Hitler rose to the
Our train,
chancellorship,
however, is
moved
moving
into the
on to
Reichstag,
Portland.
forging on to become a total dictator.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. It's wine tasting time.
Fishing nets around the world. Today, an even greater threat from us is pollution, which makes dolphins increasingly vulnerable to disease.
Today in our Pacific polycar,
People can
here on
help.
the coast, Starlight.
In Florida, 2 very sick dolphins were rescued and nicknamed
Until the Russian
Hercules.
army occupied the bomb.
Some very dedicated people will spend months caring for them while they're being studied by doctors.
He committed suicide in a nearby bunker.
Enjoy yourself. And want to
Thousands Soviet soldiers died in the battle for Berlin alone. A memorial to them stands near the Reichstag. Soldiers have kept up an honorary guard since the end of the war.
Good friends.
This is an alien world to them. The exam lasted almost an hour. Yet Hercules never
The
stopped
older
calling out
generation
to Holly.
remembers. Women great.
Both dolphins have good function of their lungs now, and they're eating very well. We've got great hopes for the prospects of being able to release them within the next few weeks.
Scientists like Randy Wells are trying to help dolphins survive by learning more about them. We can't protect what we don't understand.
This city into a major port. We leave our...
But black American Jesse Owens shamed Hitler on his own playground. Owens swept 4 gold medals and was the most memorable athlete of the games. The street leading to the stadium is now named for Jesse Owens. Later on, East Germany continued the notion that success on the playing field indicated ideological superiority as well, while children in West Berlin enjoyed recreation. The more talented of their counterparts in the East were trained in state-run schools.
Communicating,
And in
planning,
fact,
and inventing
East Germany.
before performing a brand new leap.
Northwest's largest and
There's no
busiest.
doubt dolphins are intelligent and creative.
Tending to
Do
choke
they
it
feel
off from the
emotions
west.
like
For
grief
11
or
months,
joy?
Allied pilots supplied and fed the city. 250,000 flights brought in 2 million tons of goods. 75 airmen died before the Soviets
Again, this
gave
radar,
up the idea
and
of
they
controlling all of
blasted
Berlin.
away. And if I had been sleeping there that night, someone else would have been in this interview, dear. Someone else.
The bomb didn't take everyone at the Rad Lab by surprise. After all, a handful of their colleagues had been siphoned off to work on it, disappearing officially to a P.O. box in Los Alamos, New Mexico. When I.I. Robbie was initially asked
Of Berlin. And therefore, as a free man, I take pride in the words, Ich bin ein Berliner.
without the atomic bomb. But without radar, we could have lost it.
Made that famous speech
It
on
is
June
difficult to
26,
choose the right word to
1963.
describe radar's contribution to the outcome of the war. Enthusiasts for
The Europa Center, a shiny shopping mall,
Jojo finds
sums
his
up the
favorite
advantages
toy
West
fish
Berliners
named
enjoyed as
Saucer.
part of West Germany, even though the rest of that country was 100 miles away. A water clock several stories high mesmerizes shoppers.
Jojo and I spend a lot of time exploring his world.
These unforgettable journeys will live on in our imaginations for many years to come. Thanks for riding with us.
nearby resort runs boats through the Dolphins' feeding grounds, injuring several dolphins badly, including Jojo. One dolphin was killed by sharp propeller blades.
I reckon he's in them nettles. Have a look, Ben.
Increased since unification.
Their mission was over, but the wartime work left peacetime legacies, from radio astronomy's probe of the universe to radar control of civilian air traffic.
These civilizations.
18th century Mexican silver candlesticks.
T held a proud public demonstration of the role science and technology played in the war effort. Radar was one of the stars, and a symbol of the measure-countermeasure race the superpowers would continue in the post-war world.
Here, the living is easy for Kathleen Dzinski and the dolphins she studies. Just one problem. This is hurricane country.
Was given to the state of California by the Hearst Corporation. Open to the public.
She studies dolphins.
Back on the train,
Diving here on and off for almost 4 years, researching the dolphins and getting to know my neighbors.
There are 1,500 miles of reef.
Okay, everybody. We're getting close to landing the plane here. I hope you enjoyed tonight's program. It was a lot of fun. We got some weird video jamming here.
Here in the Tudor-style country known as the Scenic, the victors came to divvy up a defeated Germany.
I teach dolphin conservation. But my main passion is studying communication among Atlantic spotted dolphins. I've custom built a video rig with 2 underwater microphones.
We do appreciate it. And tune in again, because there's gonna be more. Every night is a new video jam. As much as I can do it. Not every night, but just about every night, okay? I'm trying to be consistent. So with that, I want to say goodbye and have a good night. We love you. We love you. We love you very much. All right, and we're going to end on the purple feedback loop.